structure we are now standing in. Before they built this, the Great South Bridge, we had a little, not so great bridge. It was nowhere near this size, about a fifth the size. It was made of stone and wood, no arches, no vaults, no attempts to link businesses, and certainly no inhabitants. Would anybody like a seat? That's my favourite joke. However, when the very first South Bridge was constructed in 1565, Edinburgh City Council were every bit as useless as they are today. They ran out of stone halfway through the construction, and so they had to do some last-minute recycling. What they recycled was the old Celtic church of Greyfriars Kirkyard. This old, ancient structure had been built from a recycled stone circle, so it was already quite a strange object, and people were afraid, people were superstitious. We still are in Edinburgh in a lot of ways. So to demolish the remnants of this old church was already pretty bad. But to then use that stone to build a commercial structure was really pushing Edinburgh's buttons. The bridge is cursed, we said. No, it isn't, said the council. Shut up. We loved our curses in Edinburgh, we loved our superstitious stories. And the people of this town used to take a 5-minute detour to avoid crossing the Old South Bridge. So when they told us 250 years later that they were going to make it 5 times bigger, we logically reasoned that that would make the curse 5 times bigger. No, it won't, said the council. Shut up, 5 times bigger. But the people of Edinburgh got a bad feeling and gathered to watch construction begin, and we were not disappointed. In the very first week of construction, part of the initial structure collapsed and killed 5 workmen. It's cursed, we said. Nobody died the next week. We were disappointed. Nobody died the following week, and we started to feel shortchanged. What sort of a curse is this? We said. It's rubbish. We shouldn't have worried. Edinburgh City Council ran out of stone again. And this time, they recycled 5 haunted houses. It'll be cursed and haunted, we said. The council were furious. This was the dawn of the Enlightenment, and not just the Enlightenment, the Scottish Enlightenment, thank you very much. Scottish brains were beginning to get a reputation for inventing absolutely everything in the world ever, yet again. And the last thing that this nation needed was for the idiot population of its capital city to start screaming about ghosts and curses. So Edinburgh City Council decided to take this on. They would defeat the superstitious attitude of this town, and the South Bridge would be the battleground for our souls. They decided to make us love this bridge, and if they could overcome the stories of the curse, they knew they could drag us kicking and screaming out of the medieval era. And so, they booked guest speakers from the universities of Edinburgh, and then from the universities of Scotland, to come to Edinburgh and wander the streets, randomly stalking? No, that was Glasgow's plan. Randomly stopping people and saying, "Hi, are you Scottish?" And if you said yes, they said, "You're really clever. All Scottish people are really clever." And started telling us how clever we were to make us feel proud and clever. And after they had done this and made all of Edinburgh feel clever, they were going to gather along the bridge as construction was completed in each section. They'd stand in soapboxes and give small lectures to anybody who wanted to stop and listen. And if we understood what they were talking about, that made us feel even more clever. And when the bridge was finished, people were still talking about not crossing it because of the curse. So the council decided to bribe us. Free food was distributed on the centre of the bridge, laced with salt, and free drink was given out on either side. So you had to cross the bridge to get both. It was a very clever plan, and it was tempting enough. But having done all of this good work, Edinburgh City Council decided to tempt fate. To actually open the bridge, to do the physical cutting of the ribbon and celebrating and commemorating the opening, they booked an incredibly controversial guest speaker. A woman. Not just a woman, the oldest woman in the city. 79-year-old wife of the King's Advocate. Bright red hair, keen green eyes. She'd been to school. She could read and write. This is exactly the type of woman we wanted to burn for witchcraft. And let me tell you, if that old hag had stood on top of this bridge and shouted, "It's and God failed to strike her dead, maybe we would have accepted that it wasn't cursed. Unfortunately, God struck her dead on the night of the opening ceremony. As the clock struck midnight to begin the day, she passed away in her sleep. Unfortunately, in Scotland, a verbal contract is considered a legally binding one, and her bereaved family insisted that her being dead was no reason for her not to open the bridge. So she did, in a hearse. The very first thing that ever crossed the South Bridge was the funerary procession of the woman that was supposed to convince us it wasn't cursed. The people of Edinburgh ran screaming from the opening ceremony. Now, it was cursed, it was haunted, and it killed you stone dead if you doubted it. So when the poor people began to live inside of this bridge, it's with some confidence I tell you, they were not Edinburgh's poor people. They were Highlanders, they were Irishmen, they were country folk, they were outsiders. And if you want to know what we thought of outsiders, we had a bloody big wall round us for 300 years. We hated the Highlanders. We'd fought with the Irish as long as we could remember. The French had landed armed troops in this city within living memory, and even the lovely Dutch were sinking Scottish ships on sight. Largely because we were such vicious pirates, yes, but still, they sank our ships. We didn't like outsiders. We didn't mix, we didn't care, we didn't talk. So these outsiders moved down, and we left them to it. And they began to drop like flies. Obviously, because the place was dripping with raw sewage most of the year round. And if they got a job, they were in the factories who found it cheaper to replace a workforce than to teach them how to use machines safely. If the disease and the poverty didn't get them, then the criminals did. The Town Guard of Edinburgh in 1827 publicly refused to come down here under any circumstances. And when they did that, the body snatchers, the baby farmers, the Satanists and the psychopaths moved in. They had a dark tunnel, they had a captive population, and the police would not come down here. They picked off anybody they needed, and the bridge connected directly to underneath Surgeons' Hall. Body snatchers would have used this as the main channel, and as a result of this, the life expectancy in this structure peaked at 6 months. That's for healthy men. Women and children did not have a life expectancy. Now, people often ask me, as an investigator of the paranormal, and as a tour guide, if I believe in ghosts, if I believe in curses, if I believe these impossible things can happen. And that's a very good question, obviously. But I'm a man of science. You wouldn't believe it to listen to me, but I am. And I always look for a cohesive scientific explanation. And I've found one for every story I've ever heard about down here. And scientific explanations spoil things. They take the fun, they take the fear out, right? What I'm about to tell you, I'm sorry, but we're going to go into the next vault, because that's where the curse lives. Do me one big favour, inside of this next vault, if you could do anything at all about it, stay in the light.